Hi and good evening, everyone. My name is Albert, and this is VlogsBoutNothin. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy night to join me. I really appreciate it. I never usually do this, but I don't like the lighting on this video. Like, I like the lighting on any video, you know what I mean? I really don't. I really wish I knew what I was doing so that I wouldn't feel so frustrated when it comes to posting the videos, because I've heard in the past, the lackluster production on the videos is obviously what turns people off, if you wouldn't believe it, right? So it's sort of like, yeah, I know I working on it as best I can. In terms of like, I mean, a dude can only know how to use a light so well. You feel me? I feel like that's the way I feel about it. Regardless, tonight we're talking about retail theft versus social development and or retail theft or social development because you can't have both. All right, again, my name is Albert. I really appreciate you watching the channel. To all the new subs, to all the new viewers, I really appreciate your time. It means a lot to me. And yeah, let's talk about why people steal. Because I think it's important to talk about why people steal more than it is like the act of stealing itself. Because seriously, and I say this, we can all like agree that stealing is bad. I don't think I've ever heard even like a Robin Hood-esque kind of argument that makes sense in terms of there's no reason to steal. I mean seriously, there should be no reason for you to steal. And a lot of people feel like that because there's a lot of privileged people that honestly not only just feel like that, but have the opportunity to enact those feelings IRL via the behavior of what they're preaching. You know what I mean? And so I always like to talk about these things just because I feel like, again, as a society, we focus too much on the actual theft component when in fact we really should be talking about social development. And for what it's worth, I think uprisings and or increases in retail theft is a pretty good indicator and selling point that it's time to develop and evolve, right? Meaning that, like, if you live in a country or in a community where retail theft is rampant, well, then maybe you should consider changing social public governed policy so that theft isn't needed. The cool thing about governments and the cool thing about, civility as it concerns civic engagement within the realm of our government is that, like when we see things, we can act on them through, having got the aggregated data and formulated all the cool empirical evidence that it takes, right? It should be a good thing that, we see these trends so that we can fix them. And that's the development part, right? That's the evolving part, is again, not victim blaming, right? Because we can all kind of agree that that's not what we should be doing either. And in fact, are criminals victims? I mean, 80-20 says yes for me in terms of a lot of the people you see out on the streets and a lot of the people that are stealing, even if they're stealing to support, a drug habit or something, dare I say, I mean, are they the person to blame? I mean, in a direct sense, sure. I guess, they took the clothes from Ross or something, but it still doesn't, really, really get at the heart of what the problem is, and that's government failing to take care of the most marginalized people when the most marginalized people could just very well as be you or me, at the end of a cycle where we haven't got paid in a few months. I mean, and that's the thing is that, so many people in America are so close to abject poverty in terms of, I'm sure you've heard the expression, living paycheck to paycheck, living beyond your means, all of these things, right? They have some real relevance in the real world and the contemporary American society, and so I really feel like the government ultimately is the authority of which to handle the kinds of problems that involve developing and evolving into something better, right? Because again, we began the video by saying that we can all agree on some things. One of those things is, not stealing. And if you have no reason to steal, dare I say, nobody will steal. I mean, there aren't many people out there who steal for the fun of it. And those people, honestly, like, I mean, questionably, something could be wrong with them more than the person that has a reason to steal because they're hopped up on drugs, or obviously there's doing something that's out of character, something they wouldn't normally do if they were given the same opportunity that the normal consumer has, as ever, whatever that could mean in normal, right? Because again, most of us here in America are just that single paycheck and or a few weeks away from having absolutely nothing. So there's not a lot of safety nets. I mean, I'm sure you guys can remember a lot of the studies that came out during the pandemic, right? That estimated that over 80% of all American families don't have more than $600 readily available for an emergency. Like, that's living on the edge. Ladies, gentlemen, they, them, again. And here on Vlogs About Nothing, I'm a huge advocate for moving money, right? I mean, money in this kind of a capitalistic world and practice is not meant to be saved. It's meant to be spent. And, if it's not spent, it causes more problems than it does if we just continued to play the game as it was meant to be played, in that, we must continue to grow our ever growing and like our economy, right? I mean, it's based on the precipice, the principle of, never ending. Like, and so, yeah, if we've adapted that sort of weird model of capitalism, you bet we better follow suit, otherwise, what's all the work for and what does it even matter? So, again, retail theft versus social development, again, one you can't have without the other, and then you can have both of them at the same time, meaning that, like, you can have social development without having the retail theft part. But quite often, again, as recognized here just a few minutes ago, now that we understand the problem, right, in terms of just the way that we address it, right, which again shouldn't be even for private companies in terms of like hiring their own security, although that's hugely advocated for in terms of, I mean, but not really. Private companies, corporations, they could also just very well hire police officers. I mean, that's the thing too. And that's kind of the thing I've never really understood about private security in corporate settings to deter crime, in that it all seems like a conflict of interest. If I employed security guards at my corporate, spot, and they were, told, like, I just feel like that's pushing people in the wrong way. I feel like if you want to hire security, you call the cops, like, because they also offer security, which also makes me beg the question, then, like, why are even private security places like a thing or whatever? But then again, it's more because there is a lacking in authority from the government to allow the kinds of resources that are needed to be pulled from, for private interests and stuff. Because, like, you can get, for a funeral procession or for anything like that, you reach out to state troopers, I mean, again, as public servants, which is what law enforcement is, they are, in fact, in most cases, contractually obligated to provide services within their finite means of employment and people they have on staff and stuff to the general public when requested. You know what I mean? So it's sort of like, again, how would I address retail theft at large corporations? Well, honestly, I'd invest in the community. And that investment in the community would be through law enforcement. Only because people feel safer around cops anyway. If this makes any weird sense, post, like, George Floyd and stuff, people still feel safer, I'd say, with police officers out there. Even for all of us marginalized folks, I'd so much rather have a police officer's presence that, is a servant, an agent of the public, than I would, Securitas or whatever these other private company names are that offer the same kinds of services, at a way probably, like, and that's the thing too, is they charge more or less. I'm real interested in this now. But again, moreover, I feel like retail theft is a result of lacking in societal development. And I feel like if we choose to focus on some social issues, and if we pass social legislation and reform that addresses the main causes of people, wanting to feel like they need to commit crime, then again, like, we need to be better than crime. We need to be better than stealing, but we can only all do that as a collective society if we choose to place value socially on this kind of behavior via implementation of things like UBI, things like nationalized healthcare, things that are, again, going to provide our constituents and our fellow citizens with an opportunity to, be in a position to where they don't have to steal. Again, because I feel like people only steal because they're forced to, and furthermore, there would probably be a lot less people, with major drug addictions and stuff. It's just, I hope that you guys have a really good night. This is Vlogs About Nothing. I hope that you guys consider subscribing to the channel. It would really mean a lot to me, and I don't want to take up any more of your time because this is a topic that I could go on for a while about. But just, again, understand where I'm coming from. Obviously, again, it's bad to steal. You don't need a magical ball to understand that in fact is wrong. However, it takes a little bit more maturity and a little bit more understanding to consider the fact that retail theft is only a result of lack of opportunity in a social world where people are constantly marginalized and forced to do bad things to support their already sort of negative and fallout in life. And we should be there to help people recover, and not entice them by providing incentives to steal in that regard. So I hope that you guys have a really good night, and thanks again for watching Vlogs About Nothing. Bye.